Hello friends, I made this for. My name is Lauren. And if this is your first time here, hi, hello, welcome. I'm so glad you chose to click on this video. If you have been here before, you're a returning subscriber, I love you. Yeah, and if you are a returning watcher but not subscribing, what? Anyway, let's get into today's toxic spirituality talk. For those of you who know, I like to talk about astrology, the tarot. I'm an art ritual facilitator, so I have a spiritual small business, and I like to talk about toxic spirituality. If you follow me on TikTok, that's kind of where I share more of that work. But I definitely am wanting to share it more in long form here. So if you want to follow me on TikTok and get some of those showities, link is in the link tree down below, along with my store. And other links, Discord, Patreon, all those good things. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about toxic spirituality today. And specifically, let's talk about the binary. In spirituality, I have experienced a lot of different things, but one thing that I've been experiencing or just seeing a whole lot of is this resurgence of the binary. Now let's be real here. Let's be very clear. If you fit into the binary and that supports you, I don't want to yuck your yum. That's not what this is about. But my goal as a practitioner, as a space holder, as a witch and magical person is for collective liberation, for collective conscious change, for supporting folks who are not supported by our current systems, that have been harmed by our systems, present and past. And so this video is not to convince you otherwise about what is right or wrong, but to simply explore how we can do things differently, because some of these ideas might be doing more harm than good. So when I talk about the binary, there are a few things I want to highlight here. Again, I've said this before and I'll say it many times. I grew up in the Baptist church in Texas. So speaking of binaries is something that I definitely have found in the church, did not like it, and then have seen it repeated in the spiritual realm. Now, the hippie to Christian pipeline and Christian to hippie pipeline, that co-loving habitual place, is definitely a conversation for another time. What I want to really harp on today is the binary problem as it relates to high and low vibration, which of course I won't go into too much detail because that's its own video. But the masculine, feminine sort of binary, the good or bad binary, and a very black and white binary. So if you've been here before, you know I like to de-gender the tarot, because if it doesn't serve all of us, does it really serve any of us? Again, that's phrasing from Lindsay Mack, an amazing tarot teacher. And I really appreciate that reflection, because if we're really here to bring collective liberation, then we really have to be checking in with why we think the way things that we do and how they might actually be harming those that we love. So let's start with the binary as just a concept. I think most of us know the binary being very black and white. It's male, female, it's good or bad, it's high or low, it's many different things. with the binary, I also see a lot of a connection to purity culture that a lot of us might have been witness to when it comes to keeping the purity of your virginity, or keeping the purity of your thoughts, or keeping the purity of your surroundings. Like, oh, that's GMO. I can't eat that. That's GMO. That's like bad. Again, that's not to say GMO is necessarily good, but when we put labels on good or bad on food, we start to get wrapped up in a binary that puts us at odds with a very real world. And I say that because as a teacher, I used to teach in a neighborhood in North Philly, which of course is a food desert. And so living in that sort of binary of good and bad foods can be really problematic and like hard for folks who just have less access to food. So that's one area of this binary. The area of binary that's been really poking its head at me has been the binary of masculine and feminine. And again, if you've been here for a while, you know how I feel about it. The idea that masculine and feminine are these divine things that are immovable and therefore are made perfectly for each other, like little puzzle pieces, on the surface might sound good. And in fact, at some point, I believed it myself, this idea of, well, we do fit together like puzzle pieces. I said, having lots of heterosexual sex. But what about people that doesn't feel good for? What about people that are intersex? What about people that do not fit into the binary? And this is where we start to lose folks. We start to not acknowledge the existence of so many things outside the binary. And actually, a really good friend of mine put it beautifully. Nature is non-binary. And I really love that. I think for a lot of us in the spiritual community, we attribute Mother Earth a very feminine characteristic. But what if we were to take gender away from that and just observe the earth as a beautiful being, a beautiful place to live, to steward, to love and nurture, as it nurtures us, as they nurtures us, as them nurtures us, right? The binary can make us think that perhaps that our existence is wrong, which is, of course, not serving anyone. If we feel that we are just naturally wrong and covered in shame, can we truly ask for help? Can we truly help others? My argument is, how can we move outside this binary? Some folks are trans, some folks are pan, some folks are just not in the box, right? So the thing about believing in this binary is that it often can exclude same-sex couples. It can get really dicey with how we interact with folks, or just be communicative. If our language feels exclusionary, are we really helping folks? Are we really opening their hearts? Or are we closing our own? And so this is why I feel like in the spiritual community, the binary is very toxic, because it gets us into boxes. And this is something that I definitely discuss when it comes to high and low vibration, is when we look at thoughts through the same sieve of they're either good or bad, we start to muddy the waters of human experience. The human experience is so much more expansive. And even with tarot cards, I often teach that there are no good or bad. They're simply experiences. I recently made a video about the devil card. Obviously, that card gets a bad rap. It gets seen as negative. But if we view it through that negative scope, we miss out so much nuance and medicine in that archetype. And that goes the same for our identities, our sexuality, our beliefs, and even what we eat. If we focus on this black and white rather than experiencing the gray, are we unfortunately and unintentionally kicking people out of the conversation? So this is just a quick thought about the binary. Again, this is not here to tell you what to think, but rather to ask the question, is what we believe really supporting everyone, including ourselves? If you live in a food desert, is it really supportive to believe that food is either good or bad, when nourishment on just the surface is so important? There's so many children that go hungry in this country every day. So thinking about, well, that's good food or bad food, nourishment is nourishment. Now we can have conversations about that are super important of, yes, everyone should have access to fresh water that is clean and fresh food that is nourishing. But how can we expand out that binary so that we're making sure that folks are feeling nourished from us and our love? I hope this was supportive for you. I hope this brings some light to your emotions, to how you're feeling, to your thought process. Oh, sorry, I just finished drinking coffee and now I'm so tired. But anyway, what are your thoughts? Have you been struggling with the binary? Are you a non-binary person that feels that a lot of this gendered language is just kind of making the waters around your spirituality muddy? I would love to know your thoughts and feelings. I myself am pan. I have lots of queer friends and non-binary friends. So I would love to know your insights. I think as a white person in a straight passing relationship, it's really important for me to do a lot of listening. So I would love to know your thoughts as well. Because the great thing about the internet is we all have thoughts that we're able to share. So what do you think? Well, with that said, friends, thank you so much for being here. Check out these videos that have popped up around my head if they haven't yet. For more content, more magic. If you found this supportive, share with a friend who you think might be supported by this video. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.